Happy Thursday, class. Hey, first take some time to complete these 3 warm-up questions. Hey, you can do them in your notes if you have room, or you can do them on a separate sheet of paper, possibly in the very back of your notebook. Alright, so we're going to talk quickly about these warm-up questions, just to double check your work. Okay, we need to estimate and round to the given place value. So the first one, we're going to round to the nearest hundreds. Okay, if you remember, the hundreds is the 2 and the 4. So 1,231 is going to round to 1,200 because the 3 is less than 5. Where 2,498 is going to round to 2,500 because of the 9 being bigger than 5. It's going to make that 4 go up. Okay, so then I'm going to add them. 0, 0, 5 plus 2 is 7, 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay, so 1,231 plus 2,498 is approximately 3,700. Okay, number 2, we have to round to the tens. So we're looking at our 8 and we're looking at our 9. Okay, 12,389, because this 9 is bigger than 5, okay, that 8 is going to go up to a 9. And I have to keep everything in front of it the same. Okay, then I'm going to subtract. Okay, again, this 7 is bigger than the 9, bigger than 5, and so I'm going to make that 9 bigger. Now remember, bigger than 9 is 10, so I have to actually add 1 onto this 8 here, and that's going to become 3,900. Okay, now I can go ahead and subtract. 0 minus 0 is 0. 9 minus 0 is 9. 3 minus 9 I can't do because I have to borrow. So the 2 becomes a 1 and the 3 becomes 13. 13 minus 9 is 4. Again, I can't take 1 minus 3, so I'm going to borrow from the other one. 11 minus 3 is 8. Okay, last one is the tenths. Okay, the tenths is the spot right behind the decimal. Okay, so I'm going to take 124 and 2100ths and round it to 124 and 2 tenths because 1 is less than 5. And 23 and 2600ths is going to round to 23 and 3 tenths because 6 is bigger than 5. Okay, so to subtract, I'm going to have to borrow. 12 minus 3 is 9. 3 minus 3 is 0. 2 minus 2 is 0. And then I'm just going to bring the 1 down. And remember, don't forget, you have to include that decimal point. Alright, today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting with word problems, okay, including decimals. So by the end of the class period, you should be able to can solve addition and subtraction problems in real life situations. Okay, real life situations are usually word problems. Here's a couple of really important lists. Okay, the main issue with word problems is that we're not sure if we're supposed to add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Okay, here are some common words that you're going to see, okay, that mean addition and subtraction. I would even recommend that if you have a few extra spaces on your notes to write some of these down. Okay, some popular ones for addition, okay, are add, all together, both, combined, how many, increase, join, plus, sum, together, and total. Okay, those are the big ones. Okay, subtraction, okay, the ones that we're going to talk about the most are difference, how many more, how many left, less than, okay, subtract, take away, remains, okay, but you will also see deduct, decrease by, leftover, minus, reduce, and remove. Okay, there's also more words than just that mean addition and subtraction, but those are some major ones that you are going to be seeing in your homework and your tests. Alright, so again, we talk about using word problems to demonstrate real life situations, okay? Because a lot of the word problems we talk about are problems that you may see at some point in your life, okay? So remember that when you're working on these problems. Okay, I want to talk about a couple of key steps to working with word problems. Okay, step number 1, identify your key information. Okay, this could be including writing it separately, highlighting, underlining. Okay, all of that is really important. Step number 2, you need to identify the question. And when you identify the question, go back to that list and try and find those key words to tell you if you're going to add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Okay, the third step is obviously showing your work. Okay, if you show your work, we as teachers are able to help you with your mistakes, or make sure that you are doing the problems correctly. And then last but not least, okay, writing your answer, labeling your answer, and I actually want to write a sentence. Okay, when you write a sentence, you know for sure that you are answering the question that's being asked. Okay, some of these questions are going to be are going to have multiple steps. Okay, and so you want to make sure that when you write this sentence, you are answering the question that's being asked. All right, so let's go ahead and let's look at your first example. So this says Mrs. Miller took a vacation over the summer that traveled all over Minnesota. She started in Marshall and drove 136 miles east to Buffalo, Minnesota for a hockey tournament. Then she drove north 47 miles to St. Cloud, Minnesota to go camping. After camping in St. Cloud, she drove another 63 miles north to Brainerd, Minnesota to see Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox. From Brainerd, she traveled 188 miles back to Marshall. How many total miles did Mrs. Miller travel on her summer vacation? Okay, sometimes I actually would even recommend reading it twice. So if you want, you can go ahead and pause the video right now and reread the problem to yourself. Okay, I'm going to move on and I'm going to do the step number 1. I'm going to go back and I'm going to identify my key information. Now remember, some of these problems can get tricky because they might give you more information than needed. So make sure you're picking out the key information. Okay, so the first key information is driving 136 miles. So I'm going to write that down on my first miles. Okay, if I keep reading, I see that Mrs. Miller drove north 47 miles to St. Cloud. Okay, then I drove another 63 miles. And then last, I drove 188 miles back. Okay, step number 2, identify the question. Again, when you're identifying the question, you really want to look for those key words to help you figure out what concept you're going to use, what operation. Okay, am I going to add, subtract, multiply, or divide? So I have to identify the question. Usually the question is the last sentence in your paragraph. So here it's how many total miles did Mrs. Miller travel? Okay, and I see this word total. Okay, if I look back at that list that I showed you at the beginning of the video, I can see that total means I need to add. Okay, so now I know what to do with this information over here. I'm going to add 136 plus 47, 63 plus 188. I'm just going to break it up into 2 problems because I don't have enough room. Okay, but you could certainly add all 4 at the same time. So 6 plus 7 is 13. 4 plus 3 plus 1 is 8. And I have 183. And then I need to add the answer when I get done with this problem. So 8 plus 3 is 11. 8 plus 6 plus 1 is 15. And I have 251. Now I have to add 251 plus 183. I have my answer is 434. Okay, but at the end, I want to write a sentence that completes my question. So the question is, how many total miles did Mrs. Miller travel on her summer vacation? So I can just write Mrs. Miller traveled a total of 434 miles. All right, word problem number 2. Mrs. Haken went to the store to buy some new clothes. Mrs. Haken bought a shirt for $12.50, a pair of pants for $20.75, a hat for $17.26, and a new Minnesota Viking sweatshirt for $32.49. What was the total cost of the items Mrs. Haken purchased? If Mrs. Haken paid for the items with a $100 bill, how much money would she get back? Okay, so first thing I want to do is identify my key information. Okay, so I can see that she bought the shirt for $12.50. Okay, then she bought pants for $20.75. Okay, a hat for $17.26, and a jersey for $32.49. Okay, as you can see, I actually have 2 questions here. First, I want to know what the total cost is. And second, I want to know if Miss Haken paid with a $100 bill, how much money would she get back? Okay, so the first question deals with what is the total cost. Now, we talked about total in the last one, and we should remember that total equals adding. Okay. The second question is if you paid for if Miss Haken paid for it with a $100 bill, how much would she get back? Okay, so if I look at this how much and she get back, hey, I know that that means subtract. Because you're giving a total and you want to know how much is back. So, total cost. Total means to add. So I have to first add all of my decimals together. Okay, make sure when you're doing this that you are lining up those decimals and adding placeholders where you need it. Okay, so I have 9 plus 6, which is 15, plus 5, which is 20. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 7 is 14, plus 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20. Okay, then I can go ahead and add 7 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. 7 plus 2 is 9, plus 2 is 11, plus 2 is 13, and then I have 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. So I have a total cost of $83. Okay, now I have to find the amount of change. And remember, I pay for it with a $100 bill. And if my total cost is $83, okay, I have to subtract those to see how much I have left or what my change is. Okay, so I have 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. Okay, then I have 0 minus 3, which I can't do, so I look next door to borrow. Okay, but I have another 0 there, so I can't borrow from the 0. So I have to go all the way over to my 1, borrow from there, so that becomes 0. Okay, my first 0 becomes 10, but because I have to borrow again, that 10 becomes 9, and the 0 becomes 10. Okay, now I have 10 minus 3 is 7, and 9 minus 8 is 1. So my amount of change is $17. Okay, so now I have to write a sentence that answers both questions. Okay, so I could write it something like this. Mrs. Haken will pay a total of $83 with $17 in change when paid with a $100 bill. Okay, and the last thing you can do just to double check is to go ahead and make sure that your answer makes sense. Okay, I bought 4 things. Okay, the first one was right around $12. Okay, the second one is about $21 if I estimate. Okay, The third one is $17, and then the fourth one is $32. Okay, and I actually should probably go back and change this 12 to a 13 because it's $12.50. Okay, so if I quickly add those things together, 13 plus 21, okay, that is 34. 17 plus 32, okay, that is 49. If I add 34 plus 49, 9 plus 4, okay, is 13. And 4 plus 3 is 7 plus 1 is 8. Okay? And I can also think, all right, if I have $83 plus $17, that should get me to $100. All right, that's all for today as far as the video goes. Hey, a couple of quick reminders. First thing I need you to do is go ahead and take that quick check or quiz on Symbaloo. Hey, I would just like to see what you understand from today and what we might still have some questions on. Okay, number 2, go ahead and turn your notes into the sub to get your homework. Okay, that homework is going to be due on Monday. Okay, and remember that we have a test coming up next Tuesday, okay, so we want to make sure that all of our homework is getting in on time. And last but not least, your estimating homework that we started yesterday is due tomorrow. Okay, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow.